give us what we need. Hey!
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
White diamonds, 2 a.m. she wildin'. She sick, got they stomach in her comments. What school you went to? Gardner, Compton, Westchester, King, Drew, did we function? Lil, what that dog give me, that's on pup. All my kids are sucking up. Have you ever took a fade and ran 3 more back to back? Oh, you haven't? Then shut the f up and keep it rap. I'm from the land. Don't say you hate LA when you don't travel past the 10. Am I tripping? Yes, I am. Meditate over some money. I see Franklin, I find Zan. I'm from the land. Don't say you hate LA, but live in LA and pretend. My neck on Tarantino, Alejandro Spike Lee. Just know you took the scenic route if you stand by me, stupid.
So fly in this 50 on me, don't die trying it.
Welcome to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and happy Friday. This has felt like the longest week ever, but I suppose with all the nonsense that's happening in our nation's capital, every week feels like that. I am back in studio after being, it feels like in many places around the country talking to folks, and I wanted to start off with a little bit of Kendrick and Dodger Blue, because I think for the first time ever here on the Black Pack Show, we have an all LA lineup for you today. And I also feel like, and there's a couple of things that, Andy, I want to ask you. One is, so have you seen Sinners yet? All right, what do I got to do? Do I need to take you? Just on the cultural front, a couple of things on the cultural front. Do I need to take you to go see Sinners? Because I'm happy to do that. We can't see it on IMAX anymore, though, because it's gone. And I need you to go see it so we could talk about it.
I know. I need to go see it.
Do we need to just make a date? Can I just buy tickets and then tell you where to meet me?
Hey, I'm all game for it.
Okay. And then the other, I wanted to start with Dodger Blue because I actually went to the Kendrick concert. I feel like I've been like on a roll of things. I know. Okay, Andy's looking at me like I'm crazy because I didn't tell him I was going.
What day did you go?
I went on, what was the first day? Wednesday?
So you went the first show.
I went the first show. I did. It was unexpected. A friend of mine called and was like, I'm on my way. I had 2 experiences like that with Cowboy Carter and then with a friend was like, I'm on my way and I got an extra ticket.
So you went to the Beyonce concert too?
I did. I didn't tell you that.
Wow.
I've just been on a roll. I've been trying to find every moment of like Black joy and community that I can in this moment of chaos and craziness in our country. I sure did. I did. I popped in. I hung out with B.
I'm jealous.
And then I went to go see Kendrick.
Unfortunately, duties calls, I have to be over here.
Working.
I got to entertain the masses, you know what I mean? But I'm glad you had a good time.
But I'm going to buy us tickets for Sinners so that we can have a whole conversation about it. Sure. But we are having an LA show today, which again I think is a first. Unfortunately, I was hoping that I could get people to come and sit in here in the studio with me, but all my friends are going to call in, and so that is enough. We are going to be joined shortly by Dr. Melina Abdullah, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Grassroots, to pick up the conversation we actually started last week as we were approaching the anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. We know organizations across the country observed the anniversary this past Sunday. and the mass protests that resulted, that many, all of us included, had hoped would bring transformative change with regard to police use of force and accountability, and even more broadly, a recognition and action on systemic inequality throughout our society. But 5 years later, we see a wholesale retreat from equity measures. We see a regime in Washington that is erasing police reforms and investigations as fast as they can. So what's next for the movement that was born, actually was not born out of that moment? Efforts to reform the police are generations old, but a movement that was catalyzed in the aftermath of a series of police murders and the organizing that continues in communities today. So we're going to talk about that with Melina Abdullah. And then in the 5 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by one of the co-leads of the LA stop for the State of the People Power Tour that I've been talking about for the last few weeks. The tour is in Jackson, Mississippi this weekend. It will head to Louisville, Kentucky at the top of the week, and then it will conclude right here in Los Angeles next Friday and Saturday. So the State of the People Power Tour is a national campaign. The organizers say to meet Black communities where they are with truth, care, and power. The organizers say the two-day experience is more than an event. It is a movement for healing, truth-telling, and transformation. Again, it'll take place here in Los Angeles next Friday, June 6th from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. in LA, and then pick up again the next day, Saturday, June 7th in Pasadena from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. with the focus on the rebuilding and necessary efforts that folks are engaging in terms of the fires and the recovery from the fires. So next Friday, if you have not yet, mark your calendars. There will be later in the show, I'll ask Kevin to give us the website where folks can register. Kevin Cosney, who I didn't even say his name, I just said one of the organizers. But Kevin Cosney will from the California Black Power Network will join us to talk about the State of the People Power Tour. It'll be organizers coming together from the national level, from the local level, to plan and strategize around what is happening in the country and our local community. So first and foremost, wanting to listen to what people have to say, and then to collectively plan action for the days and months and weeks ahead. That is the State of the People Power Tour. So we have a great show. Stay with us. We're going to be up next with Dr. Melina Abdullah talking about the anniversary of the murder of George Floyd and what our communities and organizations can be doing next. This is the Black Pack on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
One, two, one, two, one, two, one, two. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There'll be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique Dupree minimum, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you. Love you.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
What? All the budget has to be used now? And we can use all the media buy?
Javier's marketing firm just got its dream funding.
Okay, ideas. Bobbleheads. No. T-shirt cannon. I seriously need some help here.
He needs to find marketing managers who are worth every dollar.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Sponsoring a job on Indeed gives it a visibility boost, so you can hire faster. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. Last week, you all remember we were having a conversation leading up to the 5th anniversary of George Floyd's murder and the uprisings that followed across the country. And this week, we are continuing that conversation about the ongoing work of grassroots movement organizers in the face of escalating attacks on Black communities. And so I'm so happy to be joined right now by Dr. Melina Abdullah, co-founder and director of Black Lives Matter Grassroots. Welcome, Melina.
Hi, Adrian. So good to be with you.
How are you? I feel like sometimes because I was gone from LA for so long, I actually forget how long we have known each other.
For a long time.
For a long time.
And we haven't been able to be in space together for a while.
I know, for a really long time. We were literally baby organizers.
We were, but I'm glad to be talking to you now.
I know, I am too. So I want to just look back for a second to 5 years ago. I feel like we have been, leading up to the anniversary since this weekend and kind of going forward, doing a lot of reflecting, over just thinking about the context in which the protests and uprisings evolved. And I was talking with Rakila Mumba last week about the context was we were already in difficult times, right? We were dealing with COVID. We had already come out of a number of highly publicized police killings. There was other racial violence happening in the country. And then we hit that moment, right, in May, that really resonated across communities, right? Not just across communities in the U.S., but across the globe. And so I just wonder when you look back at that, at that period of time, and since then, what do you carry forward from that moment? Because I know that we'll get into this. There's a lot to, be deeply concerned about in terms of what we're seeing right now. But what are the lessons that you carry forward from that moment when we saw the sort of protests and uprisings and a real call, and I think for some people, like a real sense that we would see transformative change? What do you take away from the last 5 years?
Well, I think that I'm still extremely encouraged by that moment. Mm-hmm. I think that it gave me perspective that Black Lives Matter had already been organizing for 7 years before 2020. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there was a movement to meet that moment, right? There were organizers on the ground who understood what state-sanctioned violence is. And when it happened, I remember saying to myself and saying to everybody else, this is a moment when the world is cracking wide open. The world is cracked wide open. And, I love creativity and fiction. And there was a HBO series out then, and it was about, oh God, why am I forgetting what the name of the series was? But it was about kind of this moment, like these time travelers, right?
Right.
And it was grounded in Blackness, and that's what I felt like we were actually Lovecraft country. I felt like we were actually living Lovecraft country, right? It was Lovecraft country, that there's this moment that the world cracks wide open, and we understand that the murder of George Floyd and the murders leading up to George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, right, were a moment when you saw this breaking open, but it's not going to stay open forever. Right. So you run through that moment of cracking and you get as much justice as you possibly can before the walls close back in. Right. And I think that we did a lot of that, and it was going to be messy, and we weren't going to be able to gather everything, but we were going to gather as much justice as we could. I think one of the lessons that I'm learning now as somebody who organized for decades, but organized under the banner of Black Lives Matter for, I've been in it since the very beginning. What I'm understanding in this moment is I never foresaw the resources and name recognition and all of that would come 7 years into Black Lives Matter. And what I discounted in that moment is not the call for justice, because I think that we did a phenomenal job pulling people into their own power. But there had to be a stronger infrastructure that had better guardrails to guard against the counter organizing that was happening. And I'm learning that now, and learning that that's something that needs to happen. And we have to build greater capacity by building coalitions where we can, by building trusting coalitions where we can, not thinking we have to do everything ourselves. But I'm extremely proud of the work that we did and encouraged by the work that we did. And I see another crack happening right now, 5 years later, right? Fascism is bringing cracks, and we got to be ready to run through those cracks and beat back fascism and move towards our liberation, really build an abolitionist agenda and build infrastructure that can help us get there.
And let me ask you about that, because I do think that we oftentimes underestimate the amount of infrastructure and capacity required, and we sort of build it, right? Like try and build it in real time. And then the next wave of something happens, right? Which I think is sort of what you're alluding to right now in terms of what we face. But how are the groups in the network sort of meeting this new moment, right? How are folks engaging in community, despite what we're seeing in terms of the retreat, at least at the federal level, and certainly retreat even at the state and local levels? But how are groups in the network using the lessons that they've learned to continue to build and to move forward and create new capacity and new strategies as we face down something that none of us have ever really experienced in our lifetimes. You'd have to go back 100 years really before we could find examples of what we are seeing right now.
Well, I think that we are recognizing what we did well, like the rapid response. We're recognizing how we built that infrastructure. The rapid response infrastructure is there. The idea that budgets are connected, budgets are moral and ethical documents. We got that down. We got down that you can never let up on the police, right? Yeah. We got all of that down. And I think that kind of holding on to that and embracing that and moving that forward is really important. And I think that we're also starting to get that we can't be dismayed that there's now, hundreds of people in the streets, not hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, because pre-2020, there were 4 or 5 people in the streets. Right. Still growth.
Yes.
So remembering that is really important. I was in Minneapolis last weekend for the 5-year in George Floyd Square, and people were going, where is everybody? but there were, dozens of folks, and sometimes it would balloon to hundreds of folks. And that's great because there was nobody pre-2020, right? Or very few. Like I'm thinking about the family of Jamar Clark and Philando Castile. They didn't get the kind of response that George Floyd got, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I think the other thing that's happening, and I'm actually in Indianapolis right now, is I think that you see organizations being willing to say we don't have to do everything exactly the same in order to see each other and in order to build solidarity together. So Indianapolis, there's the Black Radical Organizers Convention is happening here. And so you see Malcolm X grassroots movement, which is a close friend of Black Lives Matter grassroots, right? We're here along with the Black Alliance for Peace, which we're not always on the same page, right? But we understand that we all want liberation and we can all work together and learn from each other. And I think that's something that we've learned since 2020, that we don't have to be so ground down into our own belief system and structure that we say now we can't get down with you because we differ a little bit on this one thing because, so I think that that's really, really encouraging.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, right? The conference that you're at now. I think that I have had this conversation with many folks here on the Black Pack Show about this idea, this sort of critique that's happening, in progressive circles right now. I guess they're progressive circles about where are the Black folks. Right. Black people are, they're not here. They need to show up. There's this narrative that's really, that sort of emerged, several months ago on social media that actually feels like a campaign to essentially suggest to Black people that we should just stay out of other people's business or something. And so there's been this sort of ongoing conversation about like, where are Black people? And it's really, it bothers me for a whole host of reasons. But part of it is because we are always doing things, right? And just because people don't see it, don't know it, aren't participating in it, doesn't mean that somehow, Black people are somewhere, napping all the time. But I see lots of things happening. I see community organizations. I see movement building organizations doing the same work that they always do. It coalescing in moments, whether it's, at the convening where you are, whether it's the convenings that are happening through the State of the People Power Tour, whether it is folks strategizing themselves, like trying to get themselves in order to prepare to face what's in front of us. But I would love your perspective on this idea that somehow if Black folks aren't organizing or mobilizing in the way that the progressive ecosystem demands, that somehow that means we're doing nothing.
Well, I mean, that's also really, really untrue. Just numerically and factually, Black people are the most civically engaged of any group. And that's from everything from voting to organizing, to advocating, to protesting in the streets. It's Black people on the front lines. And we're on the front lines because we have to be on the front lines, right? And so I thought that was probably a right-wing effort. I have a conspiracy realist mind, right? That when they say Black people need to sit this one out, we ain't never sat nothing out. Ever. So what are they talking about? Right. So we're not. I mean, but even if you think about the solidarity work, who is it who's saying free Palestine? It's Black students, right? Along with other students. But if you look at, my niece is one of the ones who had her degree withheld by Columbia University for doing a teach-in in a library on May 7th, right? My oldest child is co-founder of Students for Justice in Palestine at Howard, right? So it's Black students, right? Black students. Angel Marie Taylor at Cal State Channel Islands, Jabri Lowe at Woodbury University in Burbank, right? These are Black students doing that. It's Black people are the largest group other than, even though there are Black immigrants, but other than non-Black immigrants. It's Black people, non-immigrant Black people who are the second largest group fighting for the rights of migrant communities, right? So miss me with that. Black people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Black people have always been on front lines. We should be on front lines. Where is everybody else? Should be the question.
That part, yeah. Well, I do think it is because it is a continuation of, to your point, we have historical precedent of us always being in the fight. And so I am a little, not just, annoyed is probably the best word to use on the public airwaves, at the notion, right, that anyone would suggest that, because we're not doing things the way that, they think we should be doing them, right, that somehow we are sitting it out. And I do want to talk to you about, because you all have had an entire month, right? I think you characterized the month of May as a month of sacred struggle. And so this is one of those things that I feel like things are happening. People are engaged. They're doing the necessary education and disrupting misinformation and doing the sort of training and planning for all of the things that need to be done. But because it isn't in the proper form or in the correct form, somehow there is this kind of effort to penalize us. But I want to talk to you about the work that is happening within the network, both right now as well as what you all are planning and how you all are talking to folks in community about what is necessary going forward. And again, because it's both continuing to have to organize against, police misconduct and police violence in the midst of this new moment that we're in, where we're seeing, obviously a growing, white nationalism and folks being deeply concerned as they should about American democracy. So when we come forward, we're going to continue this conversation with Dr. Melina Abdullah, co-founder and director of Black Lives Matter Grassroots. Stay with us.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. After more than a decade, Lester Holt signs off from NBC Nightly News tonight. But don't worry, he's not retiring. Here's what he said in a previous interview about moving forward.
Doors open in life when you least expect them, and you want to be in a position you're ready. So, make sure that you're thinking about that next job, and when something is put in front of you, you can say, hey, I can do that.
Holt is shifting full-time to Dateline NBC. The Supreme Court just gave the Trump administration the green light to end legal protections for over 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Liberal justices Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sonia Sotomayor dissented in the decision. And Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated just made history, launching its first UK chapter in London. With 25 powerhouse women leading the charge, they're already serving the community with meals, mentorship, and support for Black-owned businesses. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The 110 in South LA. Watch out for a stalled car. This is on the southbound side before Slauson. Left lane is blocked. Delays out of Elysian Park from Stadium Way. Northbound delays and stretches, leaving the 91 all the way back to the 5. Out to Irwindale. A wreck is cleared 210 eastbound before Irwindale Avenue, but that drive is a mess out of Pasadena getting away from Mountain. Very tough right now in West Covina. 10 westbound Sunset Avenue, only though 2 right lanes are open. That's due to an earlier crash. Big delays here getting away from Holt Avenue, and I'm just receiving word that this crash has been cleared to the shoulder.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
When UCLA plays Texas Tech Saturday in the Women's College World Series, there's a good chance the Bruins will face the #1 softball player in the country. Pitcher Najari Kennedy, an African-American from Topeka, Kansas, was the Softball Player of the Year in 2024 and is the leading candidate to win it again this year. Kennedy threw a complete game 2-hit shutout Thursday in a 1-0 win over Mississippi. She had 10 strikeouts and at one point during the game retired 16 straight batters. Texas Tech coach Gary Glasgow has yet to say if Kennedy will be his starting pitcher against UCLA. Glasgow has until 30 minutes before game time to turn in his lineup. If Glasgow feels Kennedy can go with 1 day's rest, UCLA could be in for a tough day. 4 p.m. start tomorrow on ESPN. One more thing about Kennedy, she's the first softball player to sign a $1 million NIL deal. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, yo, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are here with Dr. Melina Abdullah, reflecting on the last 5 years since, as we just had the observances of the 5-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. So, Melina, I want to talk a little bit about the work going forward. I mean, we find ourselves in a moment where, we are seeing all kinds of pushback, right? All kinds of pushback, all kinds of backlash, both against Black political power, right? Against Black self-determination. We, are kind of in an era where we hear, terms like neo-segregation, coming up in conversation, resurgence of American fascism and white supremacy. When we do polling, one of the things that we always ask folks is what's the greatest, the single greatest threat to the Black community. And, in years lately, right, always one of the top 3 concerns is the rise of white supremacy. And so I just, as we think about the work that needs to be done as you all think about, both with Black Lives Matter Grassroots and Black Lives Matter LA. How are you all thinking about the ways in which you all need to do things differently? You talked a little bit about the important, taking stock of what we all did right, and the things that we need to hold on to carry forward, and things that folks innovated, right? And I think that that's important to also acknowledge that folks were doing things that had not been done before, to both make sure that we were, staying connected, communicating within communities, et cetera. But what does the work look like going forward for you all?
So I think it looks like a lot of things, that we have to be willing to fight on many different fronts. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'm most, again, encouraged by in Black Lives Matter Grassroots is our consistency and constancy. So one of the things that we do is we constantly protest police associations that are not labor unions. So the End Police Associations protests that we've been engaging in for 4.5 years to really sideline police associations, to keep them out of the labor union, to expose them for who they are is really, really important. The showing up and making demands around budgets, so the people's budget work, is really, really important. And also the willingness to both move policy and be in the streets. So Black Lives Matter Grassroots is moving policies on the federal level. We have something called Waukesha's Law, which is written in the name of Waukesha Wilson, a Black mother who was killed inside LAPD Metro Detention Center in 2016. That's been introduced in Congress by Sidney Kamlager. And it's also been introduced on the state level by Isaac Bryan. So we're moving policy like that. We're moving policy like ending qualified immunity with Ayanna Pressley. And at the same time, we know that policies are reforms on a system that is fundamentally unjust. And so the only way we're going to get to abolition is to also organize in the streets. And so being there, not being afraid, not being so tethered to, I think that this is some of kind of a tension that we see right now, where people say, well, where are Black people? Where I think what you're starting to see is Black disillusionment with a two-party system and a false alleged democracy that actually stifles Black progress. And so I think you don't see Black people as, head over heels in love with the Democratic Party. You won't see them in Orange County right now, or not many of us, right, who, what you will see, though, is people being willing to go up to the Capitol. I mean, the advocacy around reparations brings together all kinds of Black people. And then also the hope, I think, that we have to have, and I know you share this, Sister Adrianne, a Pan-African, a global lens. And so in moments of fascism here, I draw tremendous inspiration by what's happening on the continent and what's happening especially in the Sahel states and people like Ibrahim Traore.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that there's so many gems that you just dropped. So let me try to pull them apart. I was trying to take notes as you were talking, and then realize that my pen doesn't work. So let me try and do this recall. So I think the thinking about how are we using different strategies, I think is important, because I think that part of the sort of whining and crying about Black folks aren't doing things is because folks think that there's only one way to do things, but the sort of making sure that we are operating on multiple fronts is key, because it also gives inroads to different people to get engaged, right? So I think that folks oftentimes think that if they're not going to do a really big thing, right? If they don't have it within them to go out and and protest in the streets, that means that they don't have a path in, right? And so but operating on multiple fronts and offering different, strategies for people gives, regular folks an opportunity to get engaged. And then I do think that there's this question around, there's always a question around, the Democratic Party, and we're certainly seeing that a lot. We've done a series of focus groups over, 2 or 3 months around the country. And that was one of the things that constantly comes up is people's disillusionment with the party, people feeling disconnected, people being uncertain what it even stands for, people being, I think in this moment in particular, concerned that it isn't a party that is going to stand up and fight. People having a recognition that in the past there was a lot of, there was the Democratic Party fought for things that are priority concerns for Black folks, but it doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And so when you all are talking to folks about what it means to engage in electoral politics, how are you talking to them about both about the party, about what it means to, to build Black political power and the ways in which the options that we have in terms of exercising that power?
Right. Well, I was really fortunate and humbled and blessed and honored to run as vice presidential candidate alongside Dr. Cornel West. Mm-hmm. And for me, what that was and what it cemented and what it helped me to really flesh out is that the Democratic Party is never going to really advocate for Black freedom, because the Democratic Party is one of two parties that are wholly corporate owned. And so Black freedom doesn't come under predatory capitalism. And both Republicans and Democrats are tethered to a predatory capitalist system, to a white supremacist capitalist system. And so I think that what we're seeing is a willingness for Black people to say, well, what are my options? I don't want to not vote, right? I don't want to not engage in this political tool. I don't want to only protest, but how do we build, right? And so I think that that's what I got to experience and engage in over the last year and a half as we ran as independents. But also I'm seeing that continue, that trends continue among Black people, recognizing that the Democratic Party, even I mentioned reparations, the way in which even the California Legislative Black Caucus really sold out the masses of Black people by not passing real reparations when they had a chance, or at least trying. And so I think that what we do in Black Lives Matter grassroots is push where we can, and use every tool in our toolbox, but also recognize that the system is not going to give it to us unless it's forced to. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that there is when we think about the breadth of conversation, both that we're having, but that we need to be having, right, in our communities, it really does include, sort of broad political analysis, certainly, but also just sort of understanding how we build power, how we exercise power in the different ways, the different places, different fronts, right? As I think, as you said, that we can operate on. I think that we are also, trying to understand in many ways, how we think about when we look at the way our communities are policed or over policed, we also are, have had this opportunity to really think about what are alternatives, right? How do we think about crisis response, right, in our communities that look differently? And I know that we've seen some success in cities, including here in LA, but we also know that there's a retreat from that. Both, certainly we're seeing that in terms of the kinds of funding cuts that we're seeing at the federal level, the sort of pushing back against, violence intervention programs. And so when we come forward, I want to talk to you about that, right? About how do we make sure that we're continuing to protect our communities in this moment, and how you all see what we need to do, particularly when we see, again, kind of a retreat away from alternatives. So more with Dr. Melina Abdullah when we come forward.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Marina Del Rey turns 60, and you're invited to the party. Join us Saturday, May 31st from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Burton Chase Park for Marina Culture Jam, a free community celebration packed with music, dance, art, and fun for all ages. Experience electrifying performances by Takeo Project and Inca. Take a historic harbor tour, join the Freedom Drum Circle, and hop on a $1 water bus ride. Celebrate culture, connection, and coastline. RSVP at beaches.lacounty.gov/Marina Culture Jam.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
You don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
We are continuing our conversation with Dr. Melina Abdullah, co-founder and director of Black Lives Matter Grassroots. I realize, Melina, that this is the problem when you don't find space to build with somebody for years. That I have like 15,000 things that I actually want to talk to you about, and so I'm gonna try and narrow my 50,000 things down to like 2 more, because I want to talk to you about what I said right before the break about like alternative. How do we think about sort of alternatives for community safety, and also address this moment where there's sort of a retreat, some retreat away from that, and what does that say and what does that mean in terms of how we go forward. But I also want to talk to you just about how we communicate with our communities, right? I know that you are fully aware of the ways in which misinformation and disinformation and propaganda kind of seeps into our communities, and I know that you yourself, right, have a couple of radio shows, including one right here in KBLA, and the ways in which we can use our media, right, to make sure that we're informing folks and keeping folks engaged, right, both informed and engaged. So I want to get to those 2 things before I lose you. But let's talk about how the ways in which we can be thinking of what is the sort of alternative community safety look like in this moment of sort of I don't know if there's any other word to use besides retreating from it.
Yeah, I think that there is retreat in some spaces, but there's also the ratcheting up in others. And I'm not saying, so let me be clear, I'm not saying that the LA City budget is ideal. But if we take it as an example, I think the 5 years we've invested in building People's Budget LA has borne some fruit. When we think about that budget, where initially what was proposed is spending massive amounts of money on more police, and unfortunately we were not able to get to Karen Bass or get her to see our argument, hear our argument before she gave away the raises to cops, right? But what we do know is the budget that was passed by City Council does spend more on alternatives to police. And it's because we talk about evidence-based, right?
Right.
The safest communities are the communities with the most resources, not the most police, and the best intervention and prevention workers. And we know this going all the way back to our scope days together, right? That
agenda,
that
even.
the best agenda, right? That that the best intervention and prevention workers are people from the neighborhood who can see things brewing, who can get in there and nip it when it happens. I mean, if we think about what's happening right across from the station, right, the role that Skip and others play in making sure, and Africatown, and making sure that that community stays safe, that's when things are safe. It is not safe when they try to flood our neighborhood with police. And so remembering when you felt the safest, I feel the safest when my neighbors are outside, making sure that my children are safe getting home, right? Not when the police are surrounding my house, swatting my house with assault rifles. So I do see places where there's actually really strong organizing, that shift begin to take hold, including places like Los Angeles, including places like Newark, New Jersey, where they had to, free the mayor. Right. But that's because our brother Akila Sherrills has been building their community safety teams there for decades now, right? And so I see that happening in places like Jackson, Mississippi, and the establishment is so afraid of it that what do? The innovative leaders and thinkers and, courageous ones who happen to win elected office, they get rid of them, right? They say, no more Chokwe Lumumba, right? No more People's Assemblies, Mayor Chokwe, right? And even how they tried to snatch up Raz Baraka, So the people got to have their back, and I think that we can, and we do, and we just have to keep building, and we're winning some things.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit in this last couple of minutes about how we're communicating with our community, because we really are under attack, right? So when we think about what people see on their social media feeds, the places where people go to get information, it really is kind of overwhelming for folks. And it also is true that folks know that they're being targeted, right? They know that they're being targeted with mis and disinformation, and it sort of makes people just distrustful of everything, right? Which is why trusted messengers and communities become really important, and trusted spaces for people to get, like KBLA, right? For folks to get information become really important. But just thinking about, how do you think about, I guess, the sort of role of community-driven radio programs and other forms of even new media for making sure that we are, building a future where our folks are informed and engaged, and we help to make sure that we find ways to help to make sure that that they are, immune to the degree possible from the propaganda that's out there.
Yeah, I think that just as they try to flood us with misinformation and disinformation, we've become much more media literate. And some people discount the fact that now, especially among young people, the majority of young people actually seek out their news from, as you said, trusted messengers. They are not trusting corporate-owned media, because corporate-owned media is owned by corporations. And so they're seeking out, I trust Dominique DePrima, right? I trust KBLA. I trust, even if you think about movement, I'm going to follow Al Jazeera. We miss Africa Stream, right? Because it was coming from spaces that are trusted and actually come from the people. So I think that we need to make sure that we continue to do that. And I think it also, though, when we think about how Sean King was deplatformed, right? Had his Instagram of 5 million followers completely erased that it reminds us that we have to build real relationships with people. So your trusted messenger should absolutely be your trusted messenger on TikTok, but also you got to have trusted messengers who surround you. And so that's what we try to build in Black Lives Matter Grassroots. And we hope and we think that we are also trusted messengers as an organization. So people follow BLM Grassroots, and we put out information. BLMLA has a weekly email that we send to everybody with kind of a roundup, and we have a monthly newsletter from BLM Grassroots. And we have people sign up for text messages so we can mobilize quickly, but also share information quickly. And I know a lot of organizations do that. Movement for Black Lives is another organization to be trusted. And so it's the media platforms, but it's also building direct relationships with the organizations and organizers that you trust.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think the last question I have for you in the minute that we have is, so these are difficult times, right? And I know that there are, folks who are always down for the fight, right? And will engage however, they can. And I also know that there's, folks who are tempted to just tune out because it is overwhelming. And again, it's scary times for people. I would just ask you to maybe share with folks, like, what inspires you and keeps you pushing forward, right? That may also be helpful to others who are looking at this daunting moment that we're in and thinking, like, maybe I should just sit this one out.
Don't sit it out. When we fight, we win. It's not just a chant. When we fight, we win. Yeah. And the only way we lose is to retreat. Don't retreat. Look at these kids. These kids ain't scared of nothing. How are their parents' generation going to be scared, right? So pick up the courage from them and then join an organization, because we get strength from our comrades. So we invite everybody to join us in Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which is BLM Grassroots on all social media, and that's also our website, blmgrassroots.org. But if that's not for you, join some organization, because we do get strength and courage and vision from each other.
Be in community, I think, is the message that we've been trying to push. Find your community and get there. So, Melina, thank you for joining me. I'm so glad that you have the time and could take the time. Now I feel like I need to find and sit down with you when you're back from Indianapolis, apparently. But I
would love that. Thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate you and all that you do. When we come forward, we're going to be joined by Kevin Cosney of the California Black Power Network to talk about the State of the People Power Tour coming to LA next week. Stay with us. We have a lot to talk about.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Mayor Eric Adams is expanding New York City's Swim for Life program, investing $5.5 million to teach nearly 5,000 more kids to swim.
Giving them the skill of knowing how to swim is a life-saving skill that they will always have.
The free class is now renamed for two teens who drowned last summer will reach 18,000 second graders across all 5 boroughs.